My mom came out because it was my birthday. So my mom was out visiting me and she saw all the clothing. She's like, Matt, are you going to be able to sell all of this? And I was like, Mom, come on.
Is there anything that you, any piece of apparel that you want to design, but think it might be too far out there for most people?
No, I have one that would not be too far out there for people. I don't even know if I want to say it because I think it's such a great idea. Here it is. I'm going to pitch it right now.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Party Pace podcast. And yes, I am recording from the road. That's why the background looks different. In this interview, I talk with Matthew Quann, who is the founder of the brand Ornot. They're a cycling clothing and sometimes cycling accessory company based in San Francisco. In this podcast, we talk about why he decided to start this brand, whether casual cycling clothing is on the rise. It was an interesting look behind the scenes at what it's like to operate a small clothing brand within the cycling industry. Super fun conversation. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. So let's get into it. Well, Matt, thanks for being on the podcast. You guys are celebrating a huge milestone, 10 years. Did you think when you started the business that you'd be still in business in 10 years?
No, because when I started the business, it was a side project. My background was as a graphic designer. So I'd been freelancing. I was a graphic designer. And I had the idea to make cycling clothing with no logos on it, or essentially minimally branded cycling apparel. And I did it kind of on a whim. I set up the company and the branding and everything as like a side project. Like graphic designers are always like working on these personal projects, and this was my personal project. And I went down the road of like, incorporating and doing all the business stuff that I needed to do to actually accept payments.
Right.
Bought a bunch of clothing, made the website, did a video, did all this stuff. It took a long time. And I was supposed to release it in the summer because it was bike clothing. And the timelines became pushed and I didn't get the clothing until October. And I was like, well, I guess I could wait until next year and then just really do it proper, in the summer. But I was like, no, I've been working on this so long. Like, I just need to get it out. I just need to be done with it. So I released it in October on my birthday. So I have this weird relationship with the business where its birthday is the same as mine. And I got it all out there, and then I went surfing. And I came back, and I don't think there was an order yet. But later that day there was like an order. So did I think it would be around in 10 years? No, I was just wondering if I would be able to sell through the, I don't know, 100 jerseys that I had.
Right.
My mom came out because it was my birthday. So my mom was out visiting me and she saw all the clothing. I had it all in all these bins and buckets. She's like, Matt, are you going to be able to sell all of this? And I was like, Mom, come on. Like, whoa, you're supposed to just be like, you can do it.
Right.
And she was just, and she still remembers that. So
What was a hole you were trying to fill in the market when you started the business? Like, what was a gap that you saw missing that you could step into?
yeah. So I was a bike racer. I started racing bikes when I was a young teenager. And the clothing around bike racing and just bikes in general, and I think even if you take a step back, bikes in general up until about the mid 2000s, like there wasn't much design. It's like it was like a industry that had not been touched by graphic designers, and it just like operated in this weird kind of Euro ugly zone.
Right.
So explicitly what I was trying to fix, or the hole that I was trying to plug, was clothing that didn't have giant logos on it. Because I was a graphic designer, and I'd work for many different clients, and I'd always be like, okay, this is good. We'd like to take a little bit from direction one, a little bit from direction two, and then put those together, and then just make the logo bigger, and then we're all good. And they always want to make the logo bigger, and I was like, no, the logo is like they know what they're looking at. They get it. Maybe the colors tell the story or something. They're already there. They know what this is. You don't need the logo bigger. So this was like my own pet project to be able to make the logo really small and wear clothing that just didn't scream like I'm wearing this brand or that brand. Um, and actually, the bike team that I was racing for was sponsored by, um, I mean, I'll say it was sponsored by Muscle Milk. So we had these giant logos that just said Muscle Milk all over us.
Right.
And it was just like really embarrassing to like, to just wear
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it was a direct reaction to that.
At what point did it move from like a side hustle to full blown? This is your full time gig.
Took a couple of years because I was freelancing as a graphic designer, so I could still kind of do both here and there. Um, and yeah, so it took a couple of years. I think I took on my first kind of like part time employee about a year into it. Um, and that was great. But at the same time, it was also scary, because I was like, oh no, now there's someone else. And I always, for a long time, I held on to this idea that I wanted to just be my project, that I could do it, I could do it all,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to have to rely on anyone else. So it took about a year or two to finally just be like, okay, I need help. Um, to keep this going. And it's just like, and then it's a snowball. Not that it grew like a snowball, but it's just snowball in that it just keeps on moving, and you just need to keep doing stuff because it just keeps happening.
So you said you started out with jerseys. Like what products did you add after that, and how has it grown over time?
Yeah, so jerseys and bib shorts, like that's how it started. It started with like the cycling kit, and then because we're in San Francisco, vests came in. I mean, maybe vests were no vests came in right after. Then we did a couple of different colorways. Then we added in socks. Um, and then we still stayed in that bike zone of just like, stretchy bike clothing for a while, um, for a really long time. However, I had this grand scheme of making clothing you could wear on your bike or not. Like I
Hmm.
had this for a long time. I was like, I want to make this, and I knew exactly what I wanted to make. As far as like a sweatshirt or a shirt or zip up or a jacket type of thing. And producing the stretchy cycling clothing was something that I knew how to do. I had done it for like bike teams, that I raced on. And we had a really good production partner, and we were able to like customize stuff and change fits and patterns, and we were able to do everything. But creating clothing from the ground up was something that took a while for us to do. So
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if there's the term for it, but like the casual, like, utilitarian cycling clothing space is pretty interesting to see different people's approaches with it.
yeah, the that stuff, the casual clothing is. I mean, it's all fun for me, but the casual clothing is really fun because we do it in a non-traditional way. Like the pullover that you're wearing is made from dead stock fabric. So it was this fabric that's already made. It's sitting there on the roll. Maybe it was made for another client. Maybe the mill made it just to send out samples, and now they have extra fabric. But regardless, there's this extra fabric, and we go through and like look at all this different fabric, and we find stuff that is cool or that we think would work well for something, uh, and then we find a use for it. If it's something that we really like. So it's kind of like entering the design process like in the middle, and then working backwards and forwards from it, and you kind of figure out what you're going to make. We make our clothing here, so we get to like make a sample and try it out fairly quickly, and we're able to kind of like keep scraps of fabric that hasn't that wasn't used for a whole production run, and then we can use that for like the pocketing. And
Hmm.
um, I don't know, we just get to kind of be creative with it in a different way.
I've been totally impressed with all the casual clothing pieces. Like this thing, like there's this phrase in fashion, quiet luxury, and I feel like this falls into it because it is so cozy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, so it's no joke that San Francisco is freezing all year, and so like we end up wearing that sweatshirt well all winter, and then wear it in the summer too because it's always cold. So we end up making all of these like kind of like sweatery sweatshirt like insulated pieces.
In your lineup, is there a product that surprised you in how well it's sold? Like you know kind of put out there and weren't expecting quite the demand that it got?
That's a good question. Um, yes, I mean, I'll go way back to 2017 when we released our first handlebar bag, um, because that was something I wanted. Like, I really wanted to make a bar bag, and I wanted to have little side pockets.
Hmm.
Like, that's when we originally did the little phone pocket, and I kind of wanted it for myself. I wanted us to make it, but I just wanted that for myself. Um, and that people ended up knowing us as, oh, or not, the bar bag company, like, or they make bar bags. So like, that surprised me that people kind of like, being people were identifying us as, a bag company, when actually we were an apparel company, and we, wanted to make bags, so we did it.
Is that a direction you guys are moving more towards, like just general bike accessories as well?
No,
Yep.
I don't think so. Because I mean, it's just you can go so many places in the bike accessories, and I think just staying in the apparel, like, we kind of know it. That's what we do. Although, when there's a little left turn to someplace cool, like, we definitely will take that turn and make a fun little product.
All the apparel made in San Francisco?
No, not everything. We make a lot of the I mean, really all of the casual stuff here.
Hmm.
We make a lot of the thermal jerseys here. We make a bunch of stuff here. However, we do also make some of, like, the bib shorts. We make those in Italy.
Hmm.
It's just like everything is made there. It's like the pads are made there. The trims, like the straps and the binding, all that's all made there. The fabric is milled there, and they have a lot of experience making bib shorts. So we've been doing bib shorts in Italy for a while. But otherwise, we make most of our clothing here ish.
Do you guys ever get pushback on the price? And like, how do you explain the value to a customer?
Yeah. Truthfully, we don't get a lot of pushback on the price because we operate in this middle zone. Like, there are people that are much more expensive than us, and then there's obviously, like, options that are cheaper, and those, it's cheaper for some reason,
Right.
whether or not it's the, conditions where they're being made, or the fabric that's being used, or how they made the front. It's like there's always something, the give and take. So we don't get a lot of pushback on it. Obviously, every once in a while there's like someone who's like, well, I'm not going to pay blah 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 blah, but it's like, show me some other pants, that are made in the US that cost around this much. Like, yes, there are some. There's some other ones that are like way more.
Right.
So
Yeah.
kind
It's
of.
a conversation I'm always having to deal with on the YouTube channel, like for anything beyond just like your guys' products. For some people, $30 bike is expensive. All bikes should be like $3 or $5. And it's like, you cannot make everyone happy.
Right. Right. It's all subjective. Yeah. And, yes, like, our stuff is expensive. However, there's this whole zone way
Right.
above us. So it's just kind of like relativity.
What's your distribution like? Do you have dealers or are you pretty much online direct to consumer?
Yeah, we do mostly direct. Although, we do sell through some bike shops. And it's something that we've kind of like ebbed and flowed with it. Like, when I first started the company, I got some wholesale interest. So I was like, okay, well, yes, this is what I do. And then, I don't know, maybe I got burned a couple of times, and then maybe the pricing didn't work, or maybe keeping up with inventory. It's just like, it's hard to do it. So we're kind of entering that again, where we're kind of opened to, selling through shops and bike shops. And it's a great way, to get our name out there. And also, like, for people just to see what we make, like, on a website, you can only see so much, or Instagram, you can only see so much. So having clothing and accessories out there for people to see in real life is helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's been my experience with your brand. I've been familiar with you guys online through the gram, but never had a chance to touch and feel until you guys sent over some review things. I was like, oh, this stuff is it's nice.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, what's been something like some interesting challenge in the business that you didn't expect?
I have challenges in the business every week that I didn't expect. So yeah, I'm like not a business guy. I was a graphic designer, forever for a long time. And I was a freelancer also, so I had to deal with a little bit of like the businessy stuff, but not really. So like everything has been a challenge. Just learning how to incorporate and pay the state tax thing, and then also ship internationally and do freight forwarding. I mean, make clothing. Just every single thing has been like this challenge that is just like a constant learning experience. So, I mean, there hasn't been like one that's been like, wow, like I got blindsided and I didn't really know what to do. But it's just like, I mean, really, just all the time there's stuff.
Is there something, now that you've been in business for 10 years that looking back that you wish you'd done earlier or a change that you would have made like far sooner than you had?
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit before, but hiring employees. So currently we're 7 people,
Okay.
including myself. So we're still pretty small. We like jam into this little office above our showroom. So if anyone comes to San Francisco, or if anyone's been there and they've come to our store, like we're all up there and we're just like kind of working away. And there's like racks of clothing and um, but yeah, the one thing that I would have done is hired people earlier, because like I said before, I kind of wanted to control everything and be able to do everything myself, and it's just help having help is huge, So I mean, I didn't hire a graphic designer until, I guess it's been about 2 years now. 2 years ago, I hired a graphic designer finally.
Hmm.
And, before, up until then, I was still doing all of it, from like the emails to the everything in the clothing to the collateral to the website. Just every little design bit was like I was doing it in Photoshop or Illustrator. And so now I can step back and, um, AJ, who's our graphic designer, is able to like take care of most of it, and then I get to step back and be more of a creative director instead of like doing it when I should also be doing something else. And then I just became such a huge bottleneck, and I probably still am.
I think that's a story of like most business founders, actually.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
it really is.
Even on, for us, we have a YouTube channel, we sell a bunch of merch, and back here was our fulfillment center. And we finally just, farmed that out. And it's just been a nice like relief to not have to like package, 50 stickers like every couple days and whatever
Yeah.
patches or pins. And
So
yeah.
farm it out like to a 3PL, or
Yeah,
to someone.
there's a local fulfillment, and they work with other kind of artists that travel abroad, so it was a pretty good relationship.
Did you ask me what one of the best things I did was? Because going to a 3PL, or having a warehouse that's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why, I don't even know what that even means. Third party logistics. It's really just a warehouse, a place that like warehouses your stuff and ships it out for you. Um, I did that back in 2016, I think. And it was really scary. We weren't quite big enough for it. We kind of lied about how many orders we had per month. Um, but whoa, that was amazing. As much as I loved like putting the orders in the bag and just being like, oh, thanks, Mike. And I'd write him a little note to be like, happy trails, Mike. Where does this guy live? Cool. And, package it up and, then skateboard it over to the post office. As much as I still miss it and did love that, having that stuff happen in the background is it's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's exactly where we were at. It was like, Laura was doing all the order fulfillment. It was kind of cool to see that, the envelopes stack up at, in the middle of the week, but then it was a
Yeah.
big time suck. And whenever we had a new drop or a video did really well, it just ate up so much time to get the orders out.
Oh, I bet.
That time that could be better spent doing other things.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having a warehouse to ship things out is a great luxury to have.
How'd you guys fare during COVID?
Yeah. So we spent the first 3 months freaking out, or 2 months, freaking out and just being weird, and then we were like, oh, okay, people are buying some stuff. Like, okay, phew, like we're not gonna like have to turn off. Um, and then we were hit with all of the crazy, like, well, we don't have anything left, and since we make a lot of our clothing here, like especially in California, like we were shut down like for a
Mhm.
long time, so we couldn't make anything, and then it was hard to get anything like fabric, when we just needed like the materials to make clothing, couldn't get fabric. And then our once our sewing facilities could open again, they couldn't get sewers to come back. And then when
Yeah.
the sewers did come back, then they were like, actually, we're closing. And so, yes, like all of this stuff, I think that, that was one of the downsides to having production here in the US, because we were really, I don't know, the US was probably, at least California was really shut down. So it was just hard for us to make anything. And our timelines are so long anyway. It takes us 6 months to make anything, and we're still like just kind of coming out of it, and like some of the changes that we made during the pandemic are just coming to fruition now. It's like this crazy like slow motion, uh, these changes that we put into effect, and it just takes forever for them to manifest.
Did you experience like the huge spike in sales interests as well, or
We did. Yeah,
yeah,
we did sales interest until we didn't have anything left.
yeah,
So it was hard to really see like where, what the actual demand was. But the company itself, was able to grow a little bit through the pandemic, which was, pretty. It seems like par for the course for a lot of um, people in our in our bike zone.
right,
Um, but we weren't able to really kind of like capitalize on it, because some people in the bike industry were able to go from like we're nothing, and then now we're like, they really were able to like grow. And I'm happy with it. We have a nice sustainable sort of growth.
What's the future look like for you guys? Are you gonna lean more into kind of the casual apparel, or what's your balance between the performance kit and like the everyday wear?
um, yes, it's a balance, because there's some people that are always going to ride in. We have people that push back on cargo bib shorts, so I mean, if like there's people that are pushing back on cargo bib shorts, like, then we're still going to be making like, we make a jersey with 3 pockets and a zip, full zip, and then we make, bib shorts. So we're still going to make that stuff, because there's just people that will only wear regular tight bike clothing. But at the same time, you know, I love the freedom that is cool now, to be able to just ride in whatever you want. And it just makes riding a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier to just be like, I'm just hopping on my bike and here I go. So we're going to continue to do that. Like, it's, I've always, to kind of like take a couple steps back to what we were talking about before, like, I was a kid and I was a bike racer, and this was in the 90s, and I grew up skateboarding. So that was like kind of like counterculture ish. And then I got into bike racing, which was not counterculture at all. Like, it was maybe small and tiny and no one knew about it,
Hmm.
but it came with all of these rules and like, all these old guys telling me how I had to do everything. And, it's taken a long time for bikes to kind of break free of that like traditional way. Like, this is how it's done. Like, this is how you do it. And got to wear this and that. Um, so it's really cool that bikes have become accepted a little bit, in this kind of like, hey, you can just do it however you want, and go ride bikes and stop and hang out,
Yeah.
and wear a flappy shirt.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue to make both. We have this. So it was freezing in San Francisco last winter, freezing and rainy. And we got kind of carried away last winter when we were like, what should we make? We're like, we need to make a vest with alpha fuzzy fluffy in it.
Yeah.
And then we were like, oh yeah, we need that. And we are like, oh, and we should make this one too. And there's like another alpha vest. It's like a little bit different, but also really fluffy and warm. And we have some stuff coming that kind of checks both the boxes in like the casual warm zone, and a little bit more like performance-y warm zone as well.
Right.
So we're going to straddle the line. We're going to do both is the answer.
Have you noticed like an increase in demand in the casual stuff over the years?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well, and also because like, so we're still pretty small, we're a small brand, but we have like, a following, people that enjoy what we do, or, something resonates with them, whether it's our business practices or, how our clothing fits or how it looks. Something resonates and they're like, okay, I'm going to buy the bike clothes. And then like those people that wear bike clothes also probably wear pants, like, so there's like, there's like some people that are just going to like, hopefully, buy the other things. So
Is there anything that you, any piece of apparel that you want to design, but think it might be too far out there for most people?
no, I have one that would not be too far out there for people. I don't even know if I want to say it because I think it's such a great idea. Um, here it is. I'm going to pitch it right now. And I think it might just be a little bit more of an execution issue, why this hasn't been made yet. So, bib shorts. So they have all the good things that bib shorts have, which is like not cutting into your stomach and staying up, and they're comfortable. However, they manifest on the outside as baggies,
Huh? Wow.
or like, casual-ish shorts.
Yeah.
And this is not a take it apart situation. It's not two pieces.
Right.
These are built together as like a hybrid piece.
Cool.
So that one's been on my to-do list for a while. We've talked around and around and around, and it's like it always kind of gets pushed to like, wow, but we got to do this first because that one is just a little bit too much of a heavy lift.
Right.
So
Yeah.
kind of the opposite of your question, but that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can I tell you something I wish some bike clothing manufacturer would tackle? Like I tend to ride in like long sleeve button ups just because
It becomes,
just just because they vent. I mean, you can vent them
Yep.
out, you can cape them. If you do any kind of long distance touring, then like the sun protection, you don't have to use sunscreen. You can roll them up; they become like short sleeve shirts. And typically, I've been wearing fly fishing shirts because it has lots of the qualities I want. They have an action back, or they have slits, so you can bend over and you get coverage. And they're also like quick dry. But yeah, like something that takes elements of like fly fishing shirts, maybe uses either rayon or even linen, but in like a cut for cycling is something that I'd love to see.
That is something that we would love to see too, and we're working on that.
Cool.
We're
Right.
working on exactly that. A long sleeve. We'll actually probably do both short and long sleeve, but I think long sleeve is kind of the better way to go because you get the sun protection. Like we do these UV trail shirts that are long sleeve. So yeah, a long sleeve button up that you can kind of transition from, riding to not riding, kind of like our mission shorts. Like our mission shorts look completely acceptable in most scenarios. Uh, that are not riding, like they look fairly nice, but
Yeah.
they also, will, work, while you're riding or exercising.
Yeah.
So yeah, that shirt is something that I want and something that we are currently working on.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
One interesting clothing trend I've seen are like the sun hoodies.
Yeah.
Those are becoming a thing. It's like, oh, so we're halfway there. People are realizing like short sleeves during hot weather, you're not gonna is okay. It has advantages.
Yeah. 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 So that's, and we can't be the only. There's got to be some other. There's like the whole. Everyone's got their own little collared shirt situation that's brewing. So I assume
I've
there will
been
be
looking
some other
pretty hard.
options.
I've been looking pretty hard. But there are just some, like the fly fishing shirt features I was telling you about. It's like that's that'd be cool to see incorporate. I guess I've gone to know Ornot a lot more after having a chance to review some things. Like, what's your value proposition to a customer? Like someone that doesn't know, like what do you want them to walk away with your brand?
But I mean, I think the things that differentiate us, which I think is probably fairly similar to a value proposition, is that we make clothing here in the U.S. There's not that many people that do that, and then on top of that, we always try to source sustainable fabrics. Usually, that means recycled. However, it could also mean dead stock. So we're always looking through everything that we make with that filter. And then the final thing that we do is that we are climate neutral certified, which means every year we work with Climate Neutral, and they help us figure out our carbon footprint, and then offset that carbon footprint through verified credits that we purchase through partner. No, it's not their partners; it's people that they have vetted. So we
Mm-hmm.
purchase these vetted carbon credit offsets. So that, along with 1% for the planet,
Mm-hmm.
we're 1% for the planet members. So we kind of lean, and this is something that we don't talk about all that much. And I guess by we, I mean I. Um, and it's even when I started the company, I was like, all right, if we're going to make stretchy bike clothing, we should at least try to do it in a good way. And back in 2013, that the good way for me was like, we're going to make stuff here in the U.S. And then that evolved into, okay, well, I'd like to still keep making things in the US, but I'd also like it to be as sustainable as possible, or, with as little impact as possible. And hopefully, because we're not making that much clothing compared to like these bigger companies, but if we can force some of the bigger companies to make these moves to be, I mean, if all of the clothing manufacturers became climate neutral certified, the amount of offsets that would be purchased would be huge. And these aren't just like planting trees offsets; they're offsets that help pay for like renewable energy. Like they help build infrastructure. So I don't know. It's like we can only do so much being small, but hopefully we can put pressure on other people to do bigger things. So,
You've mentioned dead stock a couple times. Like, how does that work? Like, do you have like a dead stock detective that just, you know, talks to different
so
like how
yeah.
does one find
Yeah,
dead stock
yeah. How do you
fabrics?
buy dead stock? Yeah, so we work with this place that gets a bunch of dead stock fabric. It's mostly from Polar Tech. Like it's like really mostly Polar Tech, which is great fabric. And we've been buying dead stock from them for, I don't know, 6 years now, and they know it. So they know what we like, and when they get new stuff, they're like, "Hey, we got more of this. Do you want it?" And we're like, yes, we want that, or no, we have so much of that stuff we do not need anymore. So yeah, we work with with a place that helps resell dead stock fabric.
Does dead stock ever become so popular it becomes livestock again, or is that?
So no, it's a good question. Dead stock can lead back to. So one of the other ways that we've used dead stock is to do like product market fit, I think is what it's called. We can test stuff out, like see if like will like do people want this? Like we want it, but like will
Right.
people buy this? So we'll find dead stock fabric, make a product, and oh, like people like, yeah, if people want this, we like it. We should make more of these. Now we need to actually, get fabric to make this.
Gotcha.
However, man, we still do a lot of dead stock stuff. The thing that I'm wearing right now is dead stock.
Last question is so what how are you guys celebrating your 10th?
So, I mean, we're working really hard to reissue the original jersey that we launched the company with. Um, it's coming back in a different way because our production, the way we produce clothing is different now. We're working really hard to make it happen. It's like time. It's definitely a time crunch right now. So we have a collection of clothing that's coming out.
Cool.
We're also going to do a bike ride, from our shop. We do those. We're going to do a big bike ride, and we'll come back, and we'll, I think, probably eat some pizza, and we'll hang out. And I'm going to celebrate my birthday. Maybe I'll go surfing. It's a
Nice.
lot.
Yeah.
I've got a busy October.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we're going to celebrate it with a little clothing release and a bike ride and a party.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much for being a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun talking to you. We've never met before,
Yeah.
so now we met on this little computer screen.
Right. Thank you for listening or watching to the podcast. If you like this content, do me that favor, hit that like button, consider subscribing, or better yet, join us on Patreon or pick up some stickers. That is the best way to support this channel so we can keep bringing you guys independent bike content. And as always, keep the supple side down.